I was going to ask you, Mark, what do you want for Christmas?
I've already got my two front teeth, so I can't really think of anything else.
I'll tell you what I want. I want population of South Africa better educated in economics. Mark, hi.
And a jolly good morning to you. It's December already, my friend. It's like nearly holidays. Okay.
It's the end of the year. It's another year. It's another year that was and is and has been. It's incredible.
I'm sorry, but time does not march at an even pace. The older you get, the smaller percentage the same unit of time is of your life. Okay.
Yes.
And that's why it seems as if time is going faster and faster. And it brings you into the first observations of the numbers of the week. There was a lady in Uganda, age 70, who's just given birth to twins. Okay. Now, beyond that, as a medical feat, who'd want to at 70? You're going to be 91 at their 21st.
And by your definition, time is going faster. So the upside is that it won't feel as long as it would if you had them.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and you read this where? You read this in the,
on some Twitter or other. Yeah. I mean, on some tweets.
On some Twitter. Right, here you are. And you trust that.
Tim, what we mustn't do is start questioning each other's sources. Okay, because we'll have to cut the program by like half. Okay. So just take it face value. On the subject of age and perception, did you know that Trump is only 3 years younger than Biden?
I did.
You see, where did you read that? Okay. We've got too many old people in power. But 81 is very old to become the president, but 78 ain't that much younger. So we need some 50-year-olds to take charge of our world, my friend.
Yeah, some really kind of useful, thrusting politicians aged 55 to 60.
That's it.
No. I mean, it is incredible. It is incredible. Biden is, roundly castigated for the fact that he's too old, etc.
Yeah.
And it's made worse by the fact that he's actually not a very good speaker and has stuttered ever since he was a kid.
Yeah.
So Trump, who's a very good speaker, whatever else you think about him, he's an excellent speaker. He's not much younger. But the interesting thing about Trump is that he's sliding towards the lala. Is an experience, how can I say this, that I somewhat appreciate.
But I mean, having said that, he's more than a decade older than me already. Yeah. I mean, it's enough with these old guys. We need new rooms. We need new leaders. We need new leaders here as much as we do everywhere else in terms of youth and people who've got a longer future than their past. Okay.
Yes.
People who are planning fundamental change and strategic directions need to have a bigger future than they have a past ahead of them. That's my hypothesis of the week.
That's a good hypothesis. And on that topic, what do you make of the new political characters on the scene? It is going to be a very intriguing election. And, I can't help feeling good about it. I mean, I sort of, there's a lot of things that you can criticize, but generally speaking, the thrust is we need to find solutions. That's what's behind this.
Yeah.
And people are seeing an opportunity for the first time. They're sensing weakness in the ANC, which might not actually transpire, but nevertheless, the people that are popping up, I don't know what their chances are. They don't look great to me, but I like them as people. So that's good.
Yeah, there's no doubt that it's exciting, if not cluttered with new people.
Yes.
Yeah. But what I'm intrigued in, what are the criteria that you need to present to us, the selectors, if you want to be in SA Team 2, if you like, 2.0?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And I've attended a couple of these things and I've read about them and listened to them. And I'm finding a lot of same old. Okay. So if you want to get a vote, you have to talk about your past, okay, not about your future. And I'm afraid that currency must now depreciate. Okay, we're not looking to have freedom fighters get rid of apartheid. Done that. Okay, we need to move now on towards building out of that mistake a prosperous future. And so I'm not hearing a lot about the future. And people, in order to get votes, are standing up and saying, this is where I come from. These are my credentials, rather than this is what I can and am going to do. And I'm afraid it's time to start talking about what's going to be done rather than from whence we've come. That's my view, and I haven't heard a lot of it.
It's a characteristic of South African politics that your credentials for being a great politician were that you were part of the struggle.
Yeah.
And then there's a whole argument about how much part of the struggle you were, and whether you were really part of the struggle, and what part of the struggle were you part of.
Yeah, and where did you live, and how hard did you have it? All of these things were valid and good reason to be appointed to take over. Okay.
Yeah.
But then what do you do with that power? You then cannot select your chommies, okay, who also have the same credentials. You have to use that empowering vote to appoint competence and energy and youth and purpose, common purpose, and things of that nature. So I'm hoping that as we trundle towards the election in 6 months or so, people are going to start telling us what they're going to do, not who they are. Okay.
Yes.
We need that change. We need that mindset change. We need, in order to convince the new voters, the unregistered and the registered but couldn't bother, we need to tell them what we're going to do, not who we are.
I know, yeah, I agree. And I don't think people care that much anymore about who you were. You know what I mean? I just don't see it. Maybe it's my kind of particular prejudice, but can I just tell you that I was in the struggle and that I played a very important role, just in case that becomes an issue somewhere along the line. But it doesn't automatically give me a launch pad, I'm afraid.
Yeah, there's place for the captain in the cockpit, okay, but he mustn't fly the plane.
Yes.
Anymore. Okay. So we need the wisdom of years and experience and purpose and all of that good stuff. But we need to hand over the reins to people who can build a new country out of the ruins of our past. And I'm finished with that speech, but please, if you want us to vote for you, tell us what you're going to do to fix us. Okay.
Can I just tell you why I think this is panning out to be an interesting election? And I won't tell you who told me this, but it was actually a very interesting thing. And it's about, weirdly, Israeli politics. So, when you look at, I don't follow it particularly closely, but this person that I was talking to does. And he said, the world is astounded by the fact that Bibi Netanyahu, who is just the worst leader that Israel has ever had, has kept on managing to win the vote. How has he achieved that? One of the ways that he achieved it was that he recognized that he had himself hit a ceiling. He could not get any more votes than he was getting. So what he did was he went out and he supported a whole bunch of very small right-wing parties. And they all got an incremental proportion of the vote. And together, he kept on tipping the scales in his favor. And I think something of the same thing might be happening in South Africa. My sense is, I don't know whether I'm right about this, but my sense is the DA has hit a plateau. And it's not going to get any more votes than it's got in the past. So it's important that all of the other parties, actually make up ground. And it's possible that they will, they might.
That is a feature, I think, of all of the, if you want to call them, established parties. Okay. And I think that money would be well spent on backing the 2%ers, some of them.
Yes.
And the new thinking and the 2%ers, and let them gather at the end of the election and add up to 10%, let's say, and let that be the swing vote.
Yes, rather than the horror of horrors, the EFF.
Yeah, well, whoever they have to combine with, let the swing vote be comprised of new thinking sourced from new voters. Let them insist on certain key ministries like, education and healthcare and security and finance and infrastructure and so on. And we'll have the beginnings of what might turn into a solution by the next election.
Okay.
Anyway, I'll be there voting. I've been involved in a number of discussions on boards or whatever. And I read recently that something approaching 50 CEOs from all sources, public listed companies, state-owned entities, public service entities, and so on, have resigned in South Africa over the last year or so. Okay, now that figure is a rough figure, but it's a lot.
Right.
It's like 3 a month or something. And so, why? And there are lots of reasons, in my view. And I've started thinking about this. One of the reasons is that I've seen in practice is that the exogenous variables are more powerful than the variables that you can manage. So people are focusing on the boat when they should be focusing on the sea. The sea has changed. The current has changed. The forces that you have to deal with are outside of the specifics of your company. The exchange rate, the supply chains, the currencies, the cost of money, all of these things have got new players in them, East and West dynamics, wars, things of this nature, which are making your micromanagement of your little company practically insignificant in the wind in which it finds itself. And that requires a whole new set of strategic thinking. And you have to think, where am I going to position where I am in the current, not how tidy is my boat? I don't know what to think of that.
That's great analogies. I think that's interesting. I mean, it sort of ties into the number of the subject I've written about a lot, which is the number of companies that are delisting from the JSE.
Yeah.
So 20 companies delisted in 2022. I don't know how many in 2023. I think less than that. But the point is that the JSE over the past 30 years has dropped half the number of companies listed. You looked at the stock exchange for your most dynamic, most innovative, most growth-orientated companies. And if you're not getting them, if what you're getting is the old big companies continuing to march onwards and gradually absorb more and more, market share, then you have a problem. The JSE Top 40 as an index hasn't performed badly, but in a sense, it's great for investors, of course, but there's a negative side to that, which is that the up-and-coming companies are not taking market share away from the big ones. The big ones are just grabbing more and more and more space. And that argues for a very, very undynamic economy.
Yeah.
And it's obviously a consequence of a low growth environment, because if you have a low growth environment, then the exogenous factors are even more enhanced, right? Is that correct? I think so. If there's a high growth environment, the more things you do with your company to position it in the right spot can make more of a difference.
Yeah.
Sounds a bit theoretical, but anyway.
It goes back to my current analogy, which is that if the current is with you, it's a hell of a lot easier to wash over your mistakes or to live with, different costs of capital. But if you're against the current, if you're tacking into the wind, it's the tackers that are going to win now.
Right.
Not the passengers. Okay. And so that's very difficult. And I think a lot of CEOs have kind of seen the creation of wealth over the last 2 decades, the likes of which they're unlikely to see again at a personal level. The markets have been awash with good CEO remuneration for the last 20 years. And we are going to have...
Slight understatement.
We're going to have to curtail our expectations about what constitutes a good and fair return. Okay, because we've had it too good, and now we've talked about this too. Everyone feels negative, but the markets, carry on more positively, and I understand that. But at an individual company level, it's going to be harder. You're going to have to be more astute, more involved, less current, more. But all of this stuff. What is the cost of capital going to be? What is inflation in war-torn Europe going to look like, and so on. And so I think it's going to be a much harder job. And it's going to be a much tougher test than we've had for the last decade. To be the boss. To be the boss is going to be hard.
I'm just astounded by the poetry of your analogies.
Tim.
Absolutely amazing.
You see, I told you.
On that theme, I have poetry of my own.
I can't wait. Have you got your guitar out? Get your guitar out already.
One of the things I wanted to talk about was COP28.
Okay.
And I would just like to say, and this rhymes, that COP28 is a cop out.
Which part rhymes?
It is a keystone cop.
8 and out is not a rhyme. I'm sorry. Rhymes require phonetic, intersection, not spelling.
Okay. Anyway, so the news of the week was that the draft agreement of COP28, which is being held in the UAE at the moment, drops the idea of the phase out of fossil fuels. So, to me, this is like completely inevitable. This is what happens if you have a climate change conference in a petrostate. What happens is that the people who make, petro take charge. And when you say to them, we're going to phase you out, as they say, you object. This copy is kind of interesting, mainly because it made me go back and just look at the numbers again, just to see if, there's a lot of skepticism about climate change. There's some skepticism. Strange enough, I'm not one of them. I think this is a very real human-made problem. But I did see a graph of the temperature rise by country until 2050, so the next 25 years roughly, right?
Okay.
So what do you think the temperature change in South Africa will be? Average temperature over the year, and this is compared to a century previous, right? The aggregate 50 years over.
In degrees Celsius.
In degrees Celsius. So you know what they're aiming for, right?
Yeah, like aiming for 1.5%, are they not?
Correct, yeah.
And so I would say between 5 and 10, no, I'd say between 2 and 5%.
Yeah, that's right. Roughly about 2.75% is the current projection at current rates, right?
Okay, yeah.
But here's the interesting thing, and really, we shouldn't take any comfort from this. Don't think about that this is good news. But the countries which will rise the highest, or in which the change will be most marked, will be Finland, Russia, Kazakhstan, and Canada.
All very low bases.
Yes. No, this is true. But there's an Arctic amplification effect. The colder the country is at the moment.
The AAE, Arctic amplification effect. Yeah, I'm going to use that at my next cocktail party. Okay.
Yeah.
You're talking about COP28 in the UAE, but the focus is on the AAE. Yeah, I've got it. Yeah.
Excellent. And South Africa, by the way, is dead on global average. So we are very likely to increase exactly by what the world increases. So it's not like we escape, but we are less affected than the...
It doesn't sound a lot.
It doesn't sound a lot until you see what the implications are. And the implications are that coastal cities are going to be wiped out, and that nearly every ecosystem will face high risks of biodiversity loss, apparently. And extreme weather events will be more frequent.
It doesn't sound a lot until you make it personal. Okay.
Yes.
If your body temperature changes by 2.5 degrees, that's the difference between being okay and being very not okay. So in degrees Celsius, if you're sitting at a happy like 36 degrees Celsius and you become a 38.5 degrees Celsius, you are very sick.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But here's a better description. I don't know how much this applies in South Africa, but the two big dams in Arizona in the US are something called Lake Powell and Lake Mead. And their average storage level is around about 10 million meters squared, and call it 14 million meters squared. That's the average over their life, right? Lake Powell is now sitting at 5.3. Lake Mead is now sitting at 7.4. In other words, exactly half. Their current storage levels are precisely half their lifetime average. It's amazing, hey?
That's to do with, rainfall and all of the filling up, but it's also to do with the silting. I mean, dams that are not properly maintained, which might not be the case in the US, but it's certainly the case here, are silting up. And so, the capacity of the dams is actually diminishing as the ground underneath goes up and the wall doesn't. So we've got our huge storage problems, but our problems here for the time being are not storage, although I read somewhere, don't check my source, that we are the 30th thirstiest country in the world. But our real issue is not the water, it's getting it to the people. It's the reticulation and the maintenance of such things and the rural needs that have not been addressed or fulfilled.
Yeah, and management and etc.
Water is a big crisis. Water, when you can go without electricity, you can go without all sorts of things. But as they say about the big three, the threes are the threes that will kill you.
Right.
3 minutes without oxygen.
Right.
3 days without water and 3 weeks without food. And so water, and the thing about dying from water absence is that you go mad first, okay, because your brain, when it dehydrates, goes mad. So water, please.
Okay.
And I'm going to promise you this, I've seen this. Water restrictions and water absence is now not a problem over there. It's a problem over here. I mean, even in the most, to-do suburbs, we started to see days and days without reticulated water. Anyway, happy Christmas.
Well, I was going to ask you, Mark, what do you want for Christmas? What is your Christmas request?
I've already got my 2 front teeth, so I can't really think of anything else. I want some peace. I want the absence of noise. Peace.
Not global peace, not world peace.
No, just my little piece. I want my bubble to stay intact over Christmas. Okay. Yeah. And you?
I'll tell you what I want. I want population of South Africa better educated in economics.
And you want to achieve this in the next 2 weeks, do you?
I just think it would be...
You should go into politics.
Oh, no, that's right. Oh, my God. Revelation. I just think we've done a terrible job of educating South Africans about economics.
That we have.
And, it's beginning to show, even the most basic topics, even the most basic concepts of economics are really sort of, it seems to me, beyond, quite sophisticated people. And it's very depressing. And I'll raise this very firmly at the political meetings that I go to over the Christmas period.
Good for you.
And I hope that all the listeners to our little podcast this year have a great Christmas. I'd just like to tell you that we are taking a break now, very well deserved, if I say so myself.
Yeah.
And we will be back on the 9th of January. And obviously, thank you so much for listening over the year. It's been too much fun. Mark, you've been a fantastic interlocutor on this thing. I really appreciate it. It's been the best part of my week.
I've had fun, Tim, and thank you for how we've come together on this. It's been such great fun. And happy holidays, everybody. Take a bit of time off. Next year is not going to be for the weak and lazy. Cheers.
Cheers.
This show is part of the Africa Podcast Network, the biggest pod network on the continent. For sales inquiries, please contact us at info@africapodcastnetwork.com.